I have the pleasure of talking to real estate agents on a very consistent basis, which is something I love and am so grateful I get to do. And many of these real estate agents that I get to chat with are other moms, or they're other ladies in real estate who someday want to be moms, or they're moms who are not yet in real estate, but they're moms that want to get into real estate. So whatever boat you find yourself in, you're going to want to stay tuned until the end today, because we are going to talk about some very important things when it comes to being a mom in real estate. This is something you're going to need to know about. We're going to share some mindset shifts, some things that I've learned, and we're also going to get into some practical, tactical things, some ways to actually make this work for you and work really, really well. Okay guys, let's get into it. If you're new here, welcome. My name's Mariah. I got into real estate when I was 18 in 2015. A couple years after getting licensed, my husband quit his job and joined me, and we have been a real estate team ever since. However, something I am so passionate about is simplifying and streamlining my business so that I can always be working less while making more. But I also just love my business and I love working in it so much. And I feel like there is an assumption out there that in order to run a successful business, whether it is a real estate business or some other kind of business, you are going to have to be dropping the ball in another area of your life, or you won't be able to be as present of a parent that you could be. And I have found that to be not the case. It takes effort, it takes discipline, it takes a lot of sacrifice, but it is so possible. I'm currently homeschooling my daughter, who is about to turn 6. It's something we both love and I feel so called to do, and not just do, but to do it super, super well in excellence. Like, it is something I'm taking so seriously, but I also feel very, very called to my business. And in that I have a few different aspects of my business. I have a whole business where I'm mentoring agents and working with agents on a consistent basis. I also have my real estate production side of business where I'm actually out there selling houses, and I love both so much, and I love all of the things that I feel called to, but I feel called to do them all really, really, really well together at the same time. And that's what we're going to talk about today. My first piece of advice is you have to do what works for you in this season. What I mean by that is there are a million ways to get business and they all work, and I'm not going to tell you which way to go about getting business. They all work if you stick with them long enough and continue to improve on how you do them over time. But here's the thing. You got to do what is easiest for you to actually do on a consistent basis. If you are consistently nap trapped, you're stuck at home while kids are napping, you can't necessarily just leave the house at any given time, and your work time block is their nap time, then, or if you have older kids while your older kids are doing some sort of independent project work, whatever, in the afternoon, then choose a way of prospecting and marketing and getting business that works with your current season of life. Know that it's okay to have a production goal without it being the biggest number ever. I don't know if any of you guys can relate to this. If you can, please let me know in the comments below. But for me, something that I kind of go back and forth on is I'm kind of an all or nothing person. So it's a little difficult for me to say my production goal is just to sell a couple houses a month and whatever. Because in the back of my mind, I'm like, but I know I could be selling this huge number because I know I can do it. But here's the thing. Does selling that huge number match the kind of life you want right now? Because if you probably got into the business for flexibility. If you got into the business to be able to be home with your kids more, then having that insane number of houses, that might not fit the type of lifestyle that you want to live. And so it doesn't mean you're failing in your business. You can actually run a quite successful business. You can actually be a top producer. You can be in the top percentage of agents in your area while selling a couple houses a month. It is possible. But I guess what I'm trying to say is we don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And by that I mean, because I've done this before, because we don't have this huge goal, we just say, well, I don't have any goals. I don't have any production goals. I don't have any at all. We don't need to be so black or white. And that's just me talking to myself because I get like that. My next piece of advice is you can actually make a really great living selling a couple houses a month, especially depending on the price range that you're working in. And now, if you're not in real estate yet, let me just warn you, selling a couple houses a month is a lot harder than it sounds. You might be like 2 houses a month. That's easy. That's one every other week. Anyone can do that. No. Getting business is the hardest part about this business. So selling 2 houses a month, even selling 1 house a month, you're still going to need consistency in your schedule for your prospecting and marketing. You're still going to need to have time blocked out every single day to be doing those consistent actions that are moving the needle in your business. But you don't have to sell a ton of houses to make a really great living. That's just a fact. But you do need consistency. You do need consistency in your prospecting. That's going to be the most time-consuming part. The actual selling houses part isn't going to be that time-consuming when you're only selling a couple houses a month. And I say only like it's not a big deal. If you're only selling a couple houses a month, you're doing better than most of the agents, okay? You're probably in the top 5% in your area, if we're being completely honest. But even if your goal is to sell 1 house every other month, you need consistency in your schedule. For prospecting, you have to treat it like a business. I guess that's what I'm trying to say is even if your goal is small, if you have any kind of goal in order to reach it at all, in real estate, you have to treat it like a business because it is a business, which requires systems, consistency, and all of those things. The next thing that you need to know is that you are just as qualified as anyone else. Here's what I mean by that. So I got my license, like I said, when I was 18, and I built my business on cold calling. I built it on cold calling. I would call for sale by owners. I would drive to for sale by owners and door knock them. And I got good at it because I did it so much. And that was the first few years of my business was all spent doing that. I was very, very confident doing it because I did it so much. And I got really good at it and I knew I was the person for the job. However, once I became a mom, I stopped all cold calling and I only focused on video marketing. I took whatever business came in through video marketing and that was pretty much it. And a big thing I didn't realize psychologically in the back of my mind that was holding me back from wanting, this is something I just realized recently, that was holding me back from wanting to even try to go out and get other business besides the kind that just came right to me with video marketing, is because I felt less professional than the other agent or inadequate as an agent because I, while I was working, was also at home with a kid. I was a mom, which is so dumb. But then I had this realization not too long ago, and I actually started cold calling again recently because it brings me joy and I love it. And I've told myself I can't do it because of all these stupid reasons, but I genuinely love it, you guys. It makes me super happy. And my husband and I, just from cold calling this last week, have like 4 or 5 listings coming onto the market in this 1 week, just from cold calling that we did not have a week ago or 2 weeks ago, all from just starting to cold call again. So I know it works. But here's the thing. I didn't want to do it again for so long. And one of the reasons is because I thought, who am I to be prospecting to these people that are trying to sell, especially high-priced homes? Who am I? And then I had this realization of, if I don't get the listing, if I don't get this listing, and if I don't call them and get this listing, this other guy who's been licensed for 2 years is going to get it. And I've sold way more houses than him. And that might sound like, oh, I think I'm better. I don't mean it like that. But to me, it was just this realization of like, it doesn't matter if I'm at home with a kid and he's at the office and we're both doing our CMAs. I'm just as qualified and professional. I just had to have that realization myself. And if maybe you've been in the business less than 2 years and you're like, well, then what makes me qualified? You have to find that inner reason, and it's going to be different for everyone, but you have to have that inner reason of why they should work with you over the other agent, or you're not going to make it in this business. And I had that before and I kind of lost it, and now I feel like I have that back. I spent years thinking that because I don't set an alarm. I don't set an alarm most days. I don't set an alarm. And because I spend a lot of my time with my kid, doing mom things with our friends, going on walks, going on play dates, all the things, I used to think that disqualified me from being as professional or being able to get the job done. But I've realized I have just as happy clients, if not happier, than a lot of other agents. It is about communication, how well you communicate with them, knowing what you're doing, explaining the process, all of that, and just doing a really good job for your clients. And it doesn't matter what time you wake up or what time, I used to think that the fact that I was at the park at a Tuesday at 10 a.m. instead of at the office meant that I was less qualified than another agent, but it truly, truly doesn't. And the proof is in the track record. I've been able to prove that it doesn't matter. And so I just want you to know that if you're a mom, you do not have to set an alarm. You can wake up whenever you want to wake up. Because guess what? That's why you're in this business. You can work when you want to work. But the problem is you actually have to do it. You can't just, like here's the thing. You still have to have a schedule. You still have to use time blocking in your day. I still have to be disciplined with my time. I have to time block. I have to make sacrifices. But I get to choose when I work. I have my work time blocks in my schedule the week before the week starts. But it doesn't have to be in the morning. It can be any time of the day. There's days when I work at 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. There's days when I work 1 o'clock p.m. It can be whenever you want. And don't buy the lie that you have to work all day to have a successful business. You don't. If you say, I'm going to make it my goal to only do the most dollar producing things for my business and cut everything else out, that means prospecting and marketing, the stuff that you know is going to get you the business and move the needle. Only do that. And then, of course, actually working with clients and doing a fabulous, over-the-top, fantastic job for them. If those are the only two things you're doing in your business, you cut all the other fluffy things out. You don't need to work more than a short time block every day, in my opinion, to be able to make a good living in real estate. Don't buy the lie that you're not as professional if you're working in a time block later in the day and you're not at the office at 9 a.m. Don't buy that lie. With all that being said, it does require sacrifices. It does require discipline with your time. For me, in order to do all these things that I feel called to do, like homeschooling my daughter really well while running a business really well, both aspects of my business, they look different and all the different things. I don't have a lot of me time, but that's okay because I'm so passionate about what I do and I feel called to do it. That is like, to me time. It brings me juice. It fuels me working on my business and growing it. That's like my me time every day. And I'm perfectly okay with that. And I understand that's the season of life I'm in right now. I don't watch TV ever, literally. I don't have a single second for watching TV, and that's okay. That's okay with me. It's a sacrifice I am more than willing to make. So just know while I'm talking about like, oh, it's easy, it's possible, you don't need all this time. Yes, that's true, but it will take sacrifices. You will have to be okay with taking calls sometimes while you have kids in the car, or making things work, writing up an addendum when you didn't want to be working anymore, you were off for the day. Like, it's gonna take sacrifices, but if you truly love what you do, and real estate's one of those jobs where it's not for everyone. Not everyone's gonna love it, but for me, I love it so much and it brings me so much joy. It truly doesn't feel like work. My next tip is, if you're a mom in real estate, be with a brokerage that allows you to learn from anywhere. If you are having to drive into the office just to tune into the training, you are at the wrong brokerage. If you're a mom, I spent years paying all of these desk fees, office fees. My husband and I had our own private office because we were top producers only the top producers had their own little room at the big office we were at. Everyone else had a little cubicle. I spent years paying for that office and all the other office fees and never used it. I worked from home anyway because as a mom, that's what's most convenient for us. We work when we can. We work when we have time blocks. Be with a brokerage where you're not paying monthly fees for offices that you're not using. Be with a brokerage where you can tune into training while you're driving your kid to soccer practice or watching their soccer practice or whatever you're doing. Well, you can tune into training when works for you. Okay, my next tip for being a mom in real estate is, before the week starts, plan your week. I use my iPhone calendar for everything, but I also use a handwritten calendar, and I also use a piece of paper, and I make a checklist of my 5 daily targets, the most important things I need to tackle for my business, and then also things that are not business related, even like what we're doing for homeschool that day. I write it all out on a piece of paper and I stick it where I can look at it in my kitchen all day long, and I do that before the day starts. This is crucial because if you're not planning your day is going to just happen however it unfolds. And if we're going to be running a business while also being a mom and present and all the other things, we have to be intentional. I have my 5 daily targets written out where I can see them every day. And by 5 daily targets, what I mean by that is these are 5 things that I know they have a proven track record to move the needle in my business. These are things that are proven to bring me clients. I know once I get to that work time block, if I'm not on a Zoom call with someone or an appointment, I'm going to be doing one of those 5 daily targets. I look at them and I say, what is following the path of least resistance right now? Which of these makes the most sense for me to do right now? And that's what I do. And I know I'm not wasting my time. And if you don't know what your 5 daily targets are, look at where your last 5 closings have come from. do more of those things. And if you're like, well, I haven't even had a single closing yet, what do I spend my time doing? You're in luck, because I made a video recently sharing what to do and what not to do as a new real estate agent. What are some of the most important things to spend your time doing as a new agent? You can find that on my channel after this video in my recently uploaded videos. Super quick editing note, the lighting is non-existent, but you guys know I live by the words, done is better than perfect. And if you're gonna be a mom running a business, you need to apply those words to your life as well. All of my marketing is not perfect, and it brings me clients. And if it was perfect, it would not get done to the level it needs to get done. So that's not what I needed to say though. The first thing I forgot to add is when you're off, be off, and when you're on, be on, being 1000% fully present. What I mean by that is when I'm working, I am 1000% there. And when I'm not working, I am fully present with my daughter. I am not thinking about working. And the way that I do this is by utilizing time blocking. This is why I love time blocking so much, because it allows me to be fully present with her, be homeschooling her, doing whatever else we're doing that day. And I'm not thinking about working. Yes, I still take calls. I still take calls sometimes. I'm still talking to agents. That's not a big deal to me. That's just part of life. As a realtor, it's just part of life. But I'm not actively prospecting, trying to get business, because otherwise it'll take over your mind, and it'll be all you're wanting to do if you're like me and you're obsessive about your business. So when I'm off, I am completely off. And when I'm on, when it's my work time block, I shut the door, I am focused, and that is all that I'm doing. I don't do any distractions. I don't have notifications on my phone. I'm not taking any calls. I know what I'm doing ahead of time. Like, I am focused. Protect your day off. My day that I intentionally don't work is Wednesdays. I like to call it tithing my time. It's easy for me to tithe my money, but it's not as easy for me to tithe my time. But I like to think of it as a very similar concept, where that is my day that I intentionally don't work. And I say intentionally because I have to try very hard on that day to not allow myself to work. I'm taking a break from all work things. I'm letting my mind rest. That is the day that I'm not working. And the rest of the week, I can work. It's fine. But Wednesday, I am protecting that day. That is my stay-at-home mom day. And yes, I'm still at home the rest of the days. I work in time blocks. I might sneak off on an appointment. But you know what I'm saying. But that is my day where I am like full-blown, no work stuff can cross my mind. Obviously, there's exceptions. We have grace. There's emergencies. But for the most part, that is my intentional day off. I do have an intentional day that I'm intentionally not cold calling, not prospecting, not making videos, not going out on appointments. I am super intentional about that being a day that I protect. Those two things have brought me so much peace in my business. Okay, back to the video. By the way, real quick, if you've watched this far and you haven't already subscribed and hit the thumbs up button, do so right now. It helps me come on here and give you guys more free content just like this one. That is it for today's video. If you grab value from today's video, hit the thumbs up button, leave a comment below letting me know what market you sell in or want to sell in if you're not yet licensed. And don't forget to head over to my channel. I have a handful of playlists sharing everything you need to know if you're thinking about getting into real estate, and I'll see you next time.